welcome. You're listening to the Just Love Them podcast. I'm your host, Cherie Best. Join me on a journey to find peace with those we love who have left their faith. Welcome to a new year and a new season here on the Just Love Them podcast. This is season 2, episode 1. We've been on the air for a year now. Very exciting. Here's a testimonial from Britt B. She says, the podcasts are so good. I love all the thoughts, experiences, and insights from her guests. Thank you so much, Britt. Today we are talking about apologizing. Here on the Just Love Them podcast, we are all about healing relationships with our loved ones, with our maker, and even with ourselves. And a big part of healing relationships is apologizing. We all make mistakes. It's just part of life. And so we all have things to apologize for at times. Apologies heal wounds. Have you ever apologized to someone and it was not accepted? Have you ever had someone apologize to you and you just didn't believe that they were really sorry? We've probably all had both of those experiences. There's a difference between the abusive mother who never seemed to apologize or didn't know how to apologize, and her children who grew up with a lack of compassion for their mother because of their lack of validation. Children who stayed stuck in victim mode and continued to horribilize their parents. There's a difference between that and the abusive mother who learned to apologize and earned the compassion of her children by validating their negative experiences and apologizing for her actions, allowing her children the opportunity to be healed from their victimhood. Ephesians 4:32 says, "Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you." Now, none of us are always kind, none of us are always tenderhearted, and none of us are always forgiving. But that's what we're striving to be. And when we can apologize, we help heal not only ourselves, but the person that we've offended. Gary Chapman and Jennifer Thomas are the originators of what I'm going to share with you today, originating from their book, The 5 Apology Languages. Now, you might be familiar with the 5 love languages. I just assume that everybody on the planet has heard of the 5 love languages and knows what their love language is. This may or may not be true. If you are not familiar with the 5 love languages, I highly encourage you to get the book, The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It is life-changing in helping you understand yourself and helping you understand the people that you love. I'm not really going to go much into the 5 love languages today. I'm kind of going to breeze over it, just really briefly describe it. But if for some reason you are not familiar with the 5 love languages and you would like to hear a podcast episode about the 5 love languages, just drop me a note on either the Facebook group or at cheriebest.com. There's a place where you can leave a message. I would be happy to do it. I just feel like everybody may already know it, and I could be completely off base on that. So as a little teeny review about love languages, Gary Chapman has identified 5 basic languages that say I love you to people more than others. And they are words of affirmation, acts of service, physical touch, gifts, and quality time. I will leave a link to this book in the show notes. Just like love languages, there are also languages of apology. And each of these apology languages has its own magic words that when they are said, the apology is easier to accept and reconciliation happens faster and better. This is why we would want to speak in someone's apology language. If we know what's going to help mend the relationship faster, if we know what's going to help them forgive us easier, we would absolutely want to use those words. Because again, we're all about healing our relationships. And not only with our loved ones who've left the faith, but with all our relationships. If we can use apology language in a way that helps the other person, then we can heal those relationships faster, better, and more effectively. And that's what we want to do. We want beautiful relationships. So here we go. 5 apology languages. Number 1, expressing regret. Magic words for expressing regret are I'm sorry. Now, when I tell you what the magic words are, it doesn't have to be exactly I'm sorry. It can be anything that expresses regret. I apologize. I'm sorry. Anything that expresses regret. And if you can be specific, that's even better for people with this apology language. So, not just saying I'm sorry, but saying I'm sorry for, and then telling them what you're sorry for. And another tip, I'm going to give you a couple of don'ts. Don't say but. I'm sorry I did this, but when you say but, you are actually blaming the other person or you're not taking responsibility. If you say, I'm sorry I'm late, but you weren't ready anyway, what you're doing is moving from apologizing to attacking and blaming, which never leads to reconciliation and forgiveness. So we don't say but, we just take responsibility for our part. I'm sorry for whatever I'm sorry for. And it has nothing to do with, there's no buts. I'm just sorry. Another one is don't say, I'm sorry that you did something. That's not even an apology. I'm sorry that you got your feelings hurt. I'm sorry that you took that wrong. That's not an apology at all. So you're saying you're sorry, but you're really blaming. You're really saying the other person has a problem. So when we are saying, I'm sorry, when we're using that apology language, we are really sincerely taking responsibility for our part, what we did, what we said. And my last don't for this one, don't expect the other person to say it back. Don't be saying you're sorry in hopes that the other person is then going to say what they're sorry for. Just own your stuff. If the other person feels the need to apologize, they will. But if they're being coerced to apologize, it's not going to be sincere and it's not going to actually heal the relationship. It's just going to make them feel resentful that they felt like they had to apologize because you did. This is about fixing what you did and nothing else. Now, my husband and I both happen to have the same apology language, which works out really well because I don't have to figure out what his apology language is, and he doesn't have to figure out what mine is. It's so easy to apologize to other people in our apology language, but what they need is for us to apologize to them in their apology language. So that may or may not be the same. I got really lucky because my husband's apology language is expressing regret, saying I'm sorry. And that's the same for me. So that's been really nice for us. And when we discovered that we had the same apology language, it just kind of made sense why we've always been able to reconcile pretty easily in that way. Apology language number 2 is called accepting responsibility. And the magic words for this, I was wrong. Sometimes it's really hard to say we're wrong. It can feel embarrassing or shameful to say we were wrong about something. But we are all wrong some of the time. We all make mistakes. Again, a couple of don'ts. Don't say, I was wrong to blah, 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 but you did this. Again, that takes away the apology and moves it into an attack, which again never leads to reconciliation or forgiveness. So you're only going to say what you did that was wrong. You're not going to say anything about what the other person that did that was wrong, even though they did things wrong too. This is about you being sincere. This is about you coming clean. And when you do that, that's what leads to reconciliation. That's what leads to amends being made. So you're just going to say, I was wrong and what you were wrong for. Again, being more specific leads to a better apology, leads to quicker forgiveness from the other person and being able to reconcile. I was wrong for, and just say what you did and don't expect that the other person is going to do the same. This is about you making it right because you want to, because you are being sincere. And for those with this apology language, the most important part of the apology is acknowledging that one's behavior was wrong. When you're accepting responsibility, you want to say things like, I made a mistake. I was wrong. Will you forgive me? I know it was my fault. Things like that are the accepting responsibility magic words. Number 3, making restitution. Making restitution magic words sound like, how can I make it right? People with this apology language want things to be fixed. Saying, I'm sorry or I was wrong is great, but what they also need tacked onto that is, what can I do to make it right? Without an effort at making it right, the person with this apology language will question the sincerity of the apology. Even if you say, I'm so sorry, I was wrong, they are waiting, silently waiting for you to say tangible evidence of what you're going to do to make it right. To them, just saying, I'm sorry, is a cop out. They want action. They want you to fix the scratch in the car or replace the broken dish or go out and mow the lawn that you said you would mow yesterday. They want restitution. They want it fixed. They want you to say, how can I make it right? And then they want you to make it right. The fourth apology language is planned change. And the magic words for this are, I'll do it differently next time. People with this apology language want you to make a change. They want to hear, I'll try not to do this again, or I will do it better next time. And they want you to have a plan for improvement. They may even ask you what you're going to do differently next time. The important thing to remember is not to make hollow promises. It must be sincere. If you're going to make a change, it must be sincere or don't say it. It's okay to say, I'm not sure what I'm going to do differently next time. Let me think about it and get back to you. Or let me think about it. Let's come up with a compromise we both feel good about. Remember not to talk in absolutes. Don't use words like always and never. Please don't say, I'll never do that again. Because if you do, then the next time they're not going to believe you. You want to say things like, I will try never to do that again. I will work on that. And be sincere. If you're willing to make a change because you care about your relationship with this person, then make a plan. What's even better is if you go back to the person from time to time and update them on your progress. Remind them that you're working on it. Tell them what you're doing different. I don't know this for sure, but I secretly think that my husband's secondary apology language next to I'm sorry is this one of planned change. And I have found myself saying to him when he points out something that's hard for him that I do in our relationship, I will say to him, I will work on that. And then I do. And then I tell him how I'm working on it. This speaks volumes to people whose apology language is planned change. The fifth apology language is requesting forgiveness. And the magic words for this are, can you forgive me? Gary Chapman describes that when an offense occurs, it creates a barrier between two people. Until that barrier is removed, the relationship cannot go forward. An apology is an attempt to remove the barrier. For people with this apology language, being asked if they will forgive you is a peace offering. You offer it, and they can choose to accept it. Asking for forgiveness is an admission of guilt, regardless of whether it was intentional or unintentional. You did something wrong, even if like you bumped into somebody, and you say, oh, I'm sorry, can you please forgive me? It might not have been intentional, but you still are requesting forgiveness. It shows that you know that you have responsibility and that you would like to heal the relationship, that you are taking a step toward them. Your request for forgiveness gives them the opportunity to take a step back toward you as well. So things like, please forgive me, or I hope you will forgive me. And again, being more specific is even better. Will you please forgive me for, and then describe what it is. Using the other apology languages in connection is great. You've just got to make sure that in your apology somewhere, you get the magic words for their apology language in there. For this apology language, requesting forgiveness, you have to realize that you're putting the relationship into their hands. You're giving them the choice whether to forgive you or not, and that it might take time. Sometimes forgiveness can come immediately. Sometimes it takes more time. Be patient. You've asked them to forgive you. Give them the time to do so. Those are the 5 languages. Again, they are expressing regret with the magic words, I'm sorry, accepting responsibility with the magic words, I was wrong, making restitution with the magic words, how can I make it right, planned change with the magic words, I'll do it differently next time, and requesting forgiveness with the magic words, can you forgive me? Now, when you are apologizing to somebody and when you're doing it with sincerity, your body language will match. We've probably all experienced someone who's angry and frustrated and says, well, I'm sorry. Well, obviously, they're not sorry, and their body language is speaking way louder than the words coming out of their mouth, and the tone of their voice is speaking way louder than the words coming out of your mouth. So when you really want someone to forgive you and you're going to take the time to make an apology, make sure you're sincere and that your tone and your body language match your words. You might be saying to me, Cherie, I don't know what my apology language is. Would you like to know? I'm going to leave a link in the show notes for you to take a free quiz. You don't have to put your email address in. This is the same quiz that's in the back of the 5 Apology Languages book. It's the very same test, and it will tell you at the end, totally free. You can find out what your apology language is. So it's really, really fun to find that out. And what do you do when you don't know what someone else's apology language is? For people that are close to you and are willing to take the quiz too, that can be a really helpful thing. But there are so many times when we don't know what someone else's apology language is. In my church, I have an assignment to do spotlights on the other women in my neighborhood. And so I'll pick 1 or 2 women a month and I will go to their house. I will interview them, ask questions, and they tell me their stories. And then I write it all up in a little spotlight. I always send it to them so that they can edit it, correct it, add, delete, do whatever they want with it, and then send it back to me. I send it on to the people who are making the newsletter. Recently, I interviewed a really nice lady. When I was done writing up her spotlight, I emailed it to her. I asked her to make any changes she wanted to and to send it back to me, and that I would then send it on to the people who were making the newsletter. When she sent it back to me, I somehow, instead of forwarding the changes that she'd made to the people making the newsletter, I somehow sent my original rough draft on to the people who were making the newsletter. Well, within a couple of weeks, the spotlight came out in the newsletter, and it was the wrong one. The next Sunday, this woman came up to me at church, and she was so nice. But with a smile on her face, she described to me how she was excited to read her spotlight. And when she opened the newsletter, instead of it being her edited version, it was the rough draft. And she, with a very kind smile on her face, told me that she was so frustrated that she couldn't even finish reading the spotlight. Well, I, of course, felt terrible. I knew I needed to apologize. She had taken a risk by coming to me and telling me about what had happened that I wasn't even aware of. And it was so obvious that I needed to apologize. I had no idea what her love language was, but I knew that if I hit all 5, I would hit upon the one that was hers. And so I started out with the very first one. I am so sorry for putting the wrong version in the newsletter. Then I used the second one. It was totally my fault, which is accepting responsibility. And then I used the third one, making restitution. I said, I will do everything I can to fix this. And so I did. I went back and found the edited version that she'd sent me. I sent it on to the people making the newsletter, and then I contacted them, explained what had happened, and asked if they could update it. Now, this newsletter is on the cloud, so it could be updated. Thank goodness. And then I got back in contact with this woman, and I told her that it was going to be changed, updated on the cloud right away. And then I used the apology language of plan change. I said, I'll make sure I'm more careful from now on so that that doesn't happen again. And then I finished up with requesting forgiveness. I hope you will forgive me. And she did. So when you don't know what someone's language is, you can use all five. And it doesn't sound weird at all. I'm so sorry. It was my fault. Let me fix it. I will be more careful next time. I hope you can forgive me. You can use all five. I invite you to take these 5 apology languages and incorporate them into your relationships and into your vocabulary when you are making apologies to the people you care about. The goal is to heal our relationships. We all want good relationships with the people we care about. We all need this. I invite you to share this podcast episode with someone you love. We have a fabulous year planned. Please join me again next time for another episode of Just Love Them.